Welcome to EVTN News, your source for Catholic news. And today, I want to talk a little bit about the Synod stuff. And I'm going to talk about other things too, but I guess the biggest thing with the Synod is that there's always news coming in. There was a Dominican priest who is really out there, and he said that he referenced the marginalized, and he included in his list of marginalized groups those in polygamous relationships. I think he called them marriages, I don't know. And Jesuits are marginalized. And I was like, that's completely not true. It's completely false. So, and the polygamists, I mean, how are they marginalized? That they can't get married? And who is he talking about? I'm sure he's not talking about Mormons. I'm sure he's talking about people who. I'm sure he's talking about religious pagan groups that have uh, weird situations where they have multiple wives or whatever. In these groups, you never hear about women having multiple husbands, but anyway. Uh, it's all disordered. It's all degenerate. Okay. Oh, also in the Synod news, I don't have any articles here, but apparently there were several people who over the weekend got sick at the Synod. Of the 300 plus participants, several of them got sick with the virus, but they haven't canceled anything yet. But I mean that you could see I could easily see the virus shutting things down. Let's hope it happens. Not that people get sick, but hopefully they shut it down. Wouldn't that be great? Although people are getting fired up. Lay people are getting really, really angry on Twitter, and it's not just it's not just the trads. It's normies. I mean, a lot of these people are really mad, and priests who like Novus Ordo priests who believe in the Catholic faith, they're at a breaking point. Some of them. So let's uh, let's hope that things happen and we can move forward instead of backward, because eventually we're going to have to rebuild the church. It's just how long is this? How long is Francis going to destroy things? And when will we be able to rebuild? Because once we can rebuild, we can see the task ahead, but we don't see the task ahead. Anyway, let's move on to the news. The Vatican last Monday publicly released responses to 10 dubia submitted by Czech Cardinal Dominic Duca regarding the administration of the Eucharist to divorced couples living in a new union. So divorced and remarried. Originally submitted by the Archbishop Emeritus of Prague on July 13th on behalf of the Czech Bishops' Conference, the DDF, formerly CDF's response, signed by Pope Francis and the new prefect Kissy, Cardinal Victor Manuel Fernandez, had been issued to the Czech Cardinal on September 25th. At the heart of Duca's dubia and the Vatican's response was a practical application of Amoris Laetitia, particularly in its pastoral guidance for the reception of communion by those sacramentally married but divorced and remarried to another person other than their spouse. So this is the same similar sort of dubia that Burke sent out. It was over 5 years ago. It may have been 7 years ago, actually. But anyway, so this is what it is. And he responded, on the question of admittance to the Eucharist for a Catholic divorced from his or her sacramentally married spouse but civilly remarried to another, Fernandez wrote that while priests should provide pastoral accompaniment to the individual, it is each person individually who is called to put himself before God and expose his conscience to him with both its possibilities and its limits and evaluate their disposition to receive. He said, this conscience, accompanied by a priest and enlightened by the guidelines of the Church, is called to be formed to evaluate and give a sufficient judgment to discern the possibility of accessing the sacraments. Heresy. Heresy. Because a Catholic would say, no. They would just answer the question and say, no, they can't receive communion. And that's the end of that. He gives this long response to say, well, you can discern if you should receive. No. The answer is no. If you're a Catholic, the answer is no. What does that make kissy? I don't know. He's an expert on kissing, not the Catholic faith, apparently. Just days before the Synod on Synodality kicked off its first round of meetings at the Vatican, a letter from Cardinal Joseph Zen was leaked to the media. He said, I am confounded by the fact that on one hand I am told that synodality is a constitutive element of the Church, but on the other hand I am told that this is what God expects from us for this century as a novelty. How can God have forgotten to make his Church live out this constitutive element in the 20 centuries of her existence? The Synod Secretariat is very efficient at the art of manipulation. Often they claim not to have any agenda. This is truly an offense to our intelligence. Anybody can see which conclusions they are aiming at. Zen writes that the organizers, while emphasizing the need to listen to all, are focusing on one group in particular. He said, little by little, they make us understand that among these all, there are especially those whom we have excluded, in quotations. Finally, we understand what they mean are people who opt for a sexual morality different from that of Catholic tradition. So he's getting to the basics of this, as we have been saying, and Cardinal Zen, it's an offense to our intelligence, Cardinal Zen says. So he's basically saying, yeah, anyone can see it. We've seen it. He sees it. So we're on the same page. There we go. Cardinal Zen's 90, so he really, he's going to fight, but, we can't really expect the 90-year-olds to be the fighters. Someone's got to step up. Okay, so the roughly 450 people in the room during the Synod on Synodality Assembly are bound to confidentiality and discretion regarding what is said in Synod discussions. When asked about what the potential punishments would be for breaking the confidentiality regulations, Vatican spokesman Paolo Ruffini laughed and said that the rules do not mean that there is a policeman who is going to punish you. He said, it is an assembly of brothers and sisters who have decided to speak freely during this specific period of time, and of course there is a personal discernment in all of this. We are not talking about punishments. We are talking about this personal discernment that was asked for by the Pope to the members. So what this means is the honor system. Remember that? Remember that from school? Remember that where in school, whenever you heard, don't look up the answers. It's an honor system. Okay. Yeah, that's what I heard. So the National Catholic Distorter has like 4 or 5 media members there. So usually their coverage is very slanted. But as long as they're posting quotes, you're going to get some accurate information. So they're actually going to be, their coverage, at least on Twitter, they're going to be posting more information than a lot of media outlets. Cardinal Mueller was surprised to be appointed to the Synod. He said, after all, I don't belong to Francis's favorite circle of friends. Other motives could have played a role. Perhaps they wanted to avoid the impression of being one-sided. Mueller criticizes the Synod for taking place behind closed doors in order to preserve the interpretive authority. He said, but it won't work, on the contrary. 460 people cannot be controlled. Some may even have their cell phones on. So basically just reinforcing what I said previously about the confidentiality, how it won't work. And hopefully Mueller is going to be disclosing any heresy. You know what you need to do. Unfortunately, these bishops are saying it to our faces. They're saying heresy out in public, not just behind closed doors. But if you can name some names, then we can really get an idea of that. But that's Mueller, so we'll see what he wants to do. Okay, let's see what we have. Idaho. A Catholic family of 8 was recently denied Holy Communion while kneeling. Scott Smith, a Catholic attorney, author, theologian, and father of 6, was on vacation with his family in Idaho in August, and they went to Sunday Mass at St. Charles Borromeo in Haley, Idaho, which is the Diocese of Boise. Smith recounted in a blog detailing the occurrence. He said, after driving 2 hours out of the mountains to attend Holy Mass, the parish priest denied all of us, my children and my in-laws, Holy Communion because we knelt to receive the Eucharist. It was so sad to see my little children already kneeling reverently to receive the Eucharist and then to see the priest wagging his finger at them. Irony of ironies, before denying my whole family Holy Communion, Father had just preached a homily on inclusion, warning about exclusivity. See, and these are, this is where we're talking about different religions. This priest belongs to a different religion. He was ordained in the Catholic faith, but he clearly doesn't believe in it. And the bishop doesn't either, by the way. The bishop banned ad orientem, and he highly discouraged communion on the tongue, so shame on him. I've already called for him to resign. I haven't called on bishops to resign for a while, but honestly, if any bishop supports any of this synodal garbage, then they should all resign. And really, if there's a new pope, he should require every single one to resign and then take it on a case-by-case basis. If they have them all submit an appeal, if they're interested in appealing, and take it on a case-by-case basis. So the guys like Burke and Sarah, you say, okay, all right. But the guys like McElroy and Hollerick, yeah. What can you say? Oh, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I don't support all of the statements I made in the past 5 years. I reject all of the statements I made in the past 5 years. I don't actually support women deacons. I don't support LMNOP relationships. Yeah, great. Now, wouldn't that be a utopia? Anyway, after speaking with the priest after Mass, Smith then emailed him citing the USCCB, which draws instructions from the Roman Missal, the Code of Canon Law, and the norms of the Congregation for Divine Worship and Sacraments. When Smith received no response from the priest, he wrote to Bishop Peter Christensen of the Diocese of Boise, who I was just talking about, who is known for instructing priests in the diocese to discourage reception of communion kneeling. Responding to Smith, the bishop wrote, as our church teaches when receiving communion, we are encouraged to have unity in our posture and gestures. Perhaps in Louisiana, I guess these must be from Louisiana, so perhaps in Louisiana the general posture when receiving is kneeling, but that is not the case in the Diocese of Boise. What an arrogant jerk. Seriously. What a jerk. And we are encouraged to have unity in our posture and gestures. Well, here's one thing, Bishop. Are you encouraged to have unity, meaning that none of you is in a state of mortal sin? Have you preached on that? I don't think so. Resign, please. It would do everyone a favor. All right, what's the next one? Oh, Bishop McKnight. All right, so John the Son of Thunder. On Twitter, I've posted a few things. I'm not super active on Twitter, but feel free to give me a follow if you wish. I pointed out for Bishop McKnight, so Nighty Night Tobin was hiding a bunch of comments. He was posted something synodal. Not Nighty Night Baby, of course. He's monitoring that he's monitoring it a lot better than he did before. We'll just say that. He may have someone pre-screen his tweets at this point after George Neumeier busted him. May he rest in peace. George Neumeier, that is. Anyway, Nighty Night Tobin was hiding comments on Twitter, and so I posted that. It was kind of just an observation. This Bishop Sean McKnight posted a synodal tweet, and he received a lot of backlash. And he must have been on Twitter all day because he was hiding at least 50 comments. So I retweeted and I said, my tweet says, word for word, another bishop who hides hordes of comments. And he blocked me. He blocked me for pointing out he was hiding comments. And so my response, I said, Bishop McKnight, where is your commitment to synodality and accompaniment if you were going to hide comments and block everyone who points it out? This is a Biden bishop, so I don't really need to read anything that he posts. Quite frankly, everyone should avoid any of his instruction. These rotten bishops, these rotten bishops who are Biden bishops, they should all resign collectively. I'm calling for their resignations too. It's a good time to do that. Do you believe, Bishop McKnight, do you believe in the Catholic faith? Do you believe that those in mortal sin should receive communion? Just like the Bishop of Idaho, Boise, Idaho, Christensen, or as he says, Pete. Do you believe that those in mortal sin should receive communion? I feel like that's a reasonable question to ask. And none of this, it's a yes or no question. None of this Pope Francis response, oh, well, discernment and accompaniment. No. It's the Catholic faith we're talking about, not some pagan tradition. All right. So I want to read you this tweet from Edward Penton. It was just posted within the past day or so. He said, yesterday I asked Cardinal Fridolin Ambongo Basungu of Kinshasa, and that is Africa. I'm not quite. I think it's, what is it? The Congo, maybe. Anyway, he said he asked him that in view of how much the LMNOP issue is a taboo in Africa, what his opinion was on the emphasis being placed on the LMNOP issues during this synod. Was he concerned that these discussions may lead to the acceptance of LMNOP blessings within the church? And if that happens, will African bishops accept this as the will of God? Of course, as you know, LMNOP is a top priority in the synod. And Basungu is in the C9. He's one of the cardinal advisors to Pope Francis, and he's on my list as one of the favorites for Pope. Not my favorite, but in all likelihood, he has a chance of becoming the next Pope. He's in his 60s. He's not terribly old, and he would be Pope for presumably a few decades. And he's from Africa, and people are saying we need an African Pope. And if you want an African Pope, here's one of the leading candidates. It's not Cardinal Sarah. Sorry, it's not. It's just not. It's this guy. His response to this LMNOP question, he said, well, first of all, we're here for a synod on synodality, and I wouldn't want us to stray from the theme of synodality. Synodality is a new way for the church to walk together hand in hand towards the shore where the Lord awaits us. This is what synodality is all about. How can we walk together on the shore where the Lord awaits us? And then walking together, how can we face the questions that confront us? Oh man, I could have cut all of that out and it would have saved you guys time. Anyway, here we go. And if one of the issues we face concerns the question of LMNOP and all that, LMNOP, but when the time comes, the Lord himself, through collective discernment, there we go, will tell us the direction to follow. But I wouldn't wish at this point to fall into what might be called personal opinion, because that would depart from the spirit of synodality. So this guy's full out Francis Church. Maybe he doesn't believe what he's saying. Maybe he does. That's even if he doesn't believe what he's saying, then he's dishonest. And if he does, then he's a heretic. Because this is not a personal opinion. LMNOP activity is not a personal opinion. Do you believe what he's saying? When the time comes, the Lord himself, through collective discernment, will tell us the direction to follow. He already did through St. Paul's letter to the Romans and whatever other letters St. Paul wrote, LMNOP is a sin. It's objectively disordered. The Lord has told us through the church. Through the church. LMNOP is one of the 4 sins that cry out to heaven for vengeance. But we need to be synodal. Personal opinion? Get out of here. That's unbelievable. I wonder if Mr. Smith has figured out yet that Reverent Novus Ordo Masses are rare. I don't even think he was expecting a Reverent Novus Ordo. See, he was on vacation in Wyoming. I think he was just looking for a Mass where he could receive communion on the tongue. And apparently you can't do that at certain places, which is, sacrilege. I don't know. What do you think? Sacrilege to deny someone? I don't know if I would say sacrilege, but it is canonically illegal, I would say. I mean, you're not in compliance with canon law if you deny someone communion on the tongue. And there's also, I don't want to mislead anyone, but apparently there's some kind of law in canon law where if you travel away from your house a certain distance, then you're not you're dispensed from the Sunday obligation. But don't take my word for it. Ask a priest, consult canon law, do what you need to do. I don't want to be the reason why anyone would skip attending Mass while they're on vacation. You have to figure that out yourself. And that's it for the synodal information I have this week. Oh, Pope Francis released his eco document, and it was just there was a lot of, there were ambiguous statements. People interpreted it how they wanted to, but it's going to be figuratively, it's going to be torn up, thrown in the burn barrel, and burned. His document on the worshiping the earth, his second one. Laudato Si is so amazing. No, it really wasn't. What is it? The Amazon Synod document. I actually started reading the Amazon Synod preparatory document back in the day. That would have been, 2019. I started reading the preparatory document. I couldn't make it very far. I thought it would be a sociological document, like, okay, there's this amount of population in the Amazon, and this many people have access to Mass, this many people do not have access to the sacraments, whatever. Here are some of the practices of their culture. But it had nothing to do with that. It was all just, these indigenous tribes are great, they worship the earth, and like, it was such a, I don't know, so effeminate. It was so difficult to read because it had nothing to do with facts. It was all just flowers and rainbows. So that was kind of pathetic. So I'm not going to read any of these eco documents anymore. Apparently this one was talking about the urgency of the climate, and Pope Francis is flying to different countries in his jet. I don't know, shouldn't he be riding a bike or have someone pulling him in a bike, or is that too much of a carbon footprint? Or maybe have a horse-drawn carriage to wherever he's going. I mean, yeah, it's going to take a little bit longer, but hey, I mean, are you committed to saving the environment, or do you need to fly everywhere in your private jet to spread the climate gospel? Reasonable question. I don't know. So yeah, hopefully the Synod is canceled. I don't think it will be. I think they're intent on their evil ways. And here's the thing. Okay, I saw a tweet from some guy on Twitter that he said he talked to his former priest. And this priest, I guess, was apparently fairly conservative to the point where he said that after the synod, he's thinking about resigning from the diocese and joining the SSPX. And my first question is, well, why not now? My second question is, or my second reaction, or my reaction would be, I don't believe it. Call me a doubting Thomas. I don't believe it. He won't. None of these parish priests will quit. None of these Novus Ordo priests will quit. None of them. If you know of even one or two that quit, let me know. The number's absolutely going to be less than 5. I will personally set that prediction out. Call me if I'm wrong. Give me a call. No, give me a call. Leave me a comment. Tell me I'm wrong. And here's why. They're not going to do open heresy. They're not. They're highly encouraging it. But you see it with the LMNOP blessings. They're not going to say, oh, LMNOP blessings are good. What they're going to do is, you know how the Vatican released that document opposing LMNOP blessings. That was a year or two ago. And that priest who drafted that document got kicked out. He got sent away to a diocese. I think he was a bishop. Maybe not. But anyway, he got sent away. And then, you know, what the Vatican's going to say is more of the same of what Kissy said about the divorced and remarried receiving communion, which is sacrilege. He said, well, you know, conscience, discernment, all this stuff, and it's really just a yes or no question. He won't answer a yes or no question. And so when it comes to LMNOP blessings, that's what they're going to say. Well, if you find it in your conscience to accompany these people, they won't even say outright, give you permission. They will say, do what you think is best for pastoral discernment or whatever. And as for women deacons, you know, there will be a question that's asked Pope Francis or the Vatican, and they'll say, well, we really don't want to exclude anyone from serving at the altar, and we must accompany people, and so do what you feel is the pastoral need in your diocese. They won't give permission for women deacons, but they'll have women serving at the altar, women preaching. They already do in some places. So it's going to be, that's what it is, infiltration, the slow infiltration and whittling away at what was always believed to be Catholic doctrine. Same with, think about this, since Vatican II, how many innovations have come in? Specifically, altar girls and communion in the hand. And those were slowly implemented. Okay, my parents wouldn't have attended our marriages if we'd married outside the church and now divorced receiving communion. Yeah, so, but it was a slow process. It was a footnote in a document. That's how it started. And so this is how they're going to get women deacons. And you know what? And I was corresponding with some people, and one of them made a good point. Have you heard about married priests at all in this synod? No, not yet. That was supposedly on the table. Now they're just going for LMNOP. LMNOPs are going to get blessings. Belgium already does it. Some of the Belgian bishops already do LMNOP blessings. Some of the Germans already do LMNOP blessings. It's already happening. It's sort of like communion in the hand and altar girls. And the same with women deacons. They're not going to be necessarily ordained right away. It'll happen. It'll come to it if Francis is still Pope. If we get a Catholic Pope, no, it's done. It's off the table. So some of them feel the urgency, and that's why they're really ramping up the rhetoric. And some of them, like Francis, are just fine with moving very slowly and cautiously, try not to get people all fired up. And now people go to the Novus Ordo and they see altar girls, and they go to the Novus Ordo and they communion in the hand, and they're okay with that because that was implemented a number of years ago. But it's still not right. Altar girls were condemned by numerous popes. Communion in the hand was an excommunicable offense for most of church history. This is what they're doing. And that's my prediction. There's not going to be any formal heresy that's declared. There really won't be. I mean, I don't think there will be formal heresy from the Vatican for a while, unless you can say about the divorced and remarried receiving communion. But even then, they're ambiguous about it. That's the Synod. Okay. Tune in next week. And also, I have some good stuff for you. I have a series of videos. I finally got to video editing from a lot of the stuff I've been doing. I have a few book reviews and a few videos of places that I visited. And I hope to do that in the future, but it just really has to do with my schedule. With the weather being so nice, I just didn't have an opportunity to get, or well, I didn't make it a priority to do video editing, but now I'm going to have some videos in the middle of the week that are going to be released for the next several weeks, and I hope that you enjoy those. It's, getting the channel a little bit more active again, and I do the EVTN news, of course. It doesn't take up a lot of my time, which is really nice, but these videos that I'm going to be releasing, hopefully, especially I like the book reviews. I like reading. I have a lot of books that I talk about, a lot of books that I've read, and hopefully I can kind of maybe encourage some people to get reading certain things, reading on certain things. I'd like to have discussions too, like not like full discussions, but if anyone has opinions on books that I post a review on, certainly leave your opinion. I'd love to hear like to hear your opinion on different books. Yeah, just really because I noticed that there were not a lot of Catholic book reviews. Very few. It's actually quite limited, the number of Catholic book reviews that are on YouTube. And so if I can contribute a little bit, then hopefully I can help people with that. And also in the description, after I post a book review, I post a link in the description to bookfinder.com. It price compares books, new and used. So you can go to those websites and buy the books at the price listed, and that includes shipping. So hopefully that's helpful as well. I have a playlist. It's called Catholic Book Reviews, and you can go there and check out all the book reviews that I've done. I also, especially now that the season is moving towards the winter, hopefully I can get a little bit more reading in and get through more book reviews. So, but for the next several weeks, I have some supplemental videos, I guess, on this channel. Just some short supplemental videos coming up, and hopefully I can continue that as the season moves along. But no guarantees on that, but that'll just be where we're at. So until next time, this has been EVTN News. Thank you so much for watching. We are the laity, and we will not be silent.